The fate of a Squeegee kid accused of murder is now in the hands of a jury. We take a closer look at the arguments and why some are calling it a complicated case. Baltimore County Schools' former director of transportation gets a huge promotion.
His promotion is outright disgusting.
Fox 45 News Project Baltimore questions the superintendent's decision after multiple school buses failed safety inspections under his leadership. Calls for the director of Baltimore's Recreation and Parks to resign. Why a community activist says the agency is failing communities that need the help most. Maryland hemp business owners are suing to keep their doors open.
I'm not ready just to give up just because of this.
Why they say the process of getting a cannabis license is discriminatory.
A weather alert in place for tomorrow. I'm breaking down the storms moving in and the impact in your area.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Well, the fate of a Squeegee kid charged with killing a Baltimore driver now in the jury's hands.
They took the case this afternoon but didn't reach a verdict. They'll reconvene in the morning. Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. 16-year-old Tavon Scott is accused of shooting Timothy Reynolds in downtown Baltimore. During closing arguments today, both the prosecution and defense focused on Scott's age. The defense stressing the incident happened just days before his 15th birthday.
Yeah, his legs was constantly shaking. I mean, he's afraid. He's scared. He was 14 when this happened just a little over a year ago, and so he's a child.
Well, prosecutor Cynthia Banks fired back, saying 14 years of age is not a free pass to commit murder. The Ruvik Naraja, an attorney representing the Reynolds family, sides with the prosecution.
They have seen the video evidence that makes it crystal clear who was the perpetrator of the crime and who is the victim.
Surveillance and dash cam video of the shooting have been the key evidence in the trial. Prosecutors say that it shows Timothy Reynolds was shot as he walked away. The defense claims it proves the shooting was self-defense.
Keith Daniels joins us live now after talking to legal experts about the case and the possible verdict. Keith?
Well, Mary, we also talked to one of Scott's defense attorneys. He walks us through his client's defense and tells us why he's confident that the jury should come back with a verdict of not guilty. Outside Mitchell Courthouse in downtown Baltimore, J. Wendell Gordon, defense attorney for Tavon Scott, waits for the verdict.
The state's evidence supported our case.
A verdict that he believes could set his client free, avoid a murder conviction in the shooting death of Timothy Reynolds. Gordon says during testimony, the defense team had multiple defenses at play, including the use of Maryland's duty to retreat law.
We raised two defenses. We raised self-defense and defense of a third party. There is no duty to retreat when you're talking about defense of a third party. The duty to retreat only applies to self-defense. And if you look at the video, when Mr. Reynolds is going after those children, they are retreating.
Under state law, when someone is not in their own home, they have a duty to retreat before defending themselves. Attorney Jeremy Eldridge, who's not associated with Scott's case, on Fox 45 News today, taking a closer look at that law and this case, which is now in the hands of the jury.
So the question for the jury will be, number one, was Timothy Reynolds still an aggressor? Was he still a threat to this young man? Secondly, was shooting him excessive force or reasonable force? And lastly, should this young man, even if he thought that Timothy Reynolds was a threat, should he have retreated and essentially run away instead of firing the firearm at that point?
Not only was the shooter defending his own life, but he's also defending the life of his comrades who are also out there being swung upon by Timothy Reynolds.
The week-long trial taking place 1 year after police say Tavon Scott, a Squeegee kid, shot and killed Timothy Reynolds following a confrontation on the corner of Light and Conway, 1 day before Scott's 15th birthday. The incident captured on cameras. Still, Gordon saying today he's confident the jury should come back with a not guilty verdict.
The state's case was very weak. In fact, she ended the case unexpectedly early. She was unable to prove that there was any DNA on the weapon, that there are any fingerprints on the weapon. In addition to, they haven't really established who the shooter is.
Well, jury deliberations resume tomorrow morning at 9:45. Reporting tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. And while Gordon says he's confident in a not guilty verdict, Dhruv Vignarajah, an attorney for the Reynolds family, disagrees. He says video proves Tavon Scott was the shooter and shows he did not try to retreat.
They have seen the video evidence that makes it crystal clear who was the perpetrator of the crime and who was the victim. The defendant retreated to get that gun and pull down that mask, and that the defendant, let's be crystal clear about this, didn't retreat. Under Maryland law, he has to, and when he doesn't, self-defense isn't on the table.
Well, we also spoke with criminal defense attorney Kurt Nachman about what the jury is likely to focus on when they meet again tomorrow morning.
The jury is going to want to take a look at the evidence, see it for their own eyes, hold the evidence, hold the materials that were recovered to the extent that they're able to safely. And so I anticipate that that's going to be happening over the next hours and days.
Fox 45 News has been inside the courtroom for every day of the trial. For our full coverage and the verdict, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
A triple shooting tonight in East Baltimore. Just after 7, officers responded to the scene on North Dean Street. 3 men had been shot. The victims, all between 20 and 25 years old. They were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The shooting is under investigation tonight. Well, Fox 45 News continues our investigation into the city's cornerstone gun violence prevention program called Safe Streets. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has a look at all the unanswered questions that surround this program.
There's really 2 routes that we're taking with this. One, pushing City Hall to be more transparent about how the Safe Streets program operates. And the second is really trying to get more information about who Safe Streets hires to work as violence interrupters.
They didn't do nothing. I was told they didn't do nothing.
People in Baltimore's communities are speaking up.
They should be doing a lot more than what I think they should be doing. These young people should not be killing and guns and dying.
As the spotlight on Baltimore's Safe Streets effort gets brighter. The latest focus coming after 30 people were shot at Brooklyn homes in the early hours of July 2nd. Prior to dozens of gunshots ringing out, 4 Safe Streets workers were at the block party, mediating 5 conflicts, sometime between 9 o'clock and 11 that Saturday night. But the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, not reviewing the details of those mediations before answering questions from the city council on July 13th.
Good evening and welcome to the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting.
That raising several new questions about the policies in place for mediations in general. Like what defines a mediation, who oversees the documentation of the conflicts, and what protocols are in place to ensure better communication among agencies about a potential threat. We questioned Mayor Brandon Scott about those questions last week.
We're talking about a very privileged document, Mackenzie.
So there is a document does exist?
We're talking about a very sensitive process. We cannot put those workers at risk just because we want to think about and critique and criticize something that some people don't understand.
Can the public see a blank form?
I think the public should trust and know, just like they trust our police officers, that these lifesavers are out there doing their work.
We followed up with the mayor after his comments, asking what information is privileged when talking about the document used to record and track mediations done by Safe Streets workers. What is the public supposed to base their trust on for Safe Streets workers? Training for the violence interrupters continue to be a question that's gone unanswered. A new training program will soon be offered to the Safe Streets workers, but we still don't know the current system. These questions go ignored by the mayor's office last week as well. Fox 45 News asked viewers over the weekend if Mayor Scott needs to answer the questions about Safe Streets. More than 90% of the viewers who responded say yes. Meanwhile, the city remains tight-lipped about who the employees are. Fox 45's investigation also centering on how the city ensures the current Safe Streets workers have left their criminal past behind them. Fox 45 finding a few examples of employees getting in trouble with the law, like Ronald Alexander. In his federal plea agreement, Alexander confessing to taking drugs from people in the community as part of his work for Safe Streets. Cases like Alexander fueling sharp criticism for the program, especially from families of people who once wanted to be involved. Has your view of the Safe Streets program changed throughout this week?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Yes. My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
The questions continue to grow as the program remains in place and leaders like Mayor Scott double down on Baltimore's commitment to funding Safe Streets.
I asked the mayor's office again if we could see a blank form the Safe Streets workers use when they document these mediations. The mayor's office said they would get back to me, but we've yet to see a copy of that document. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News has been demanding answers about how the Safe Streets program spends its money for more than a year. In January, Baltimore City handed over more than 450 pages worth of Safe Streets related contracts after Fox 45 News threatened legal action. The contract shed light onto how the program operates. However, the names of the workers are redacted because Safe Streets says they're not city employees. They work for the nonprofit that operates their specific location. You can find more on those contracts on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And we want to hear from you. Do you think Mayor Scott needs to answer all questions about Safe Streets? Right now, 96% of voters say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, a weather alert for you tonight. This is a live look at the Inner Harbor, Towson, and also our weather radar. We could see some severe storms tomorrow. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is in the Weather Center right now with the latest. Jonathan.
Yeah, after 1.97 inches of rain at the airport this morning, things have really quieted down. There are some storms that are out to the west over central and northeastern Pennsylvania and then moving down toward Harrisonburg. But it's these storms that were earlier warned and earlier actually had a watch with them that we are more concerned about for tomorrow. That's kind of the next weather maker, a little disturbance that's going to be pushing into the summertime warmth and humidity. So a slight risk of severe weather, a level 2 of 5 risk of severe weather for most of us tomorrow, except north and west a little bit lower at a marginal risk as you head up into, say, Carroll County, into northwestern Carroll County. Either way, I think the biggest potential here is going to be this threat of damaging wind gusts. Could be 60 miles an hour or greater. So you want to have those weather plans in effect and in place in your mind if you do get impacted by one of these severe storms. Potential large hail as well. Could have some downpours, and we are closing in on getting rid of our drought. So that's some good news. And little to no tornado threat. So some good news there with that. But overnight, it looks like things are pretty quiet. But by tomorrow afternoon, that's when things start getting a lot more active. Notice by about 4 or 5 o'clock, that's when the cells are getting going. I'm going to let you know where you're going to be seeing it through the commute in a couple of minutes.
We'll stay with Fox 45 News. Our team of meteorologists tracking the storms throughout the night. Then wake up with Fox 45 Morning News meteorologist Amy Aronson will have the latest forecast before you head out the door, starting at 4:30 a.m.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, the hemp industry in Maryland is fighting to keep their businesses open after Maryland bans the sale of some production without a cannabis license. The new legal battle we'll tell you about. Some sharp criticism for Baltimore City Rec and Parks, why one community leader says they're ignoring neighborhood needs. And right after our break, the Baltimore County Public School System has a new chief operating officer. Project Baltimore explains why you might recognize his name and why some parents are upset about it.
Baltimore County Public Schools has a new chief operating officer earning more than $250,000 a year.
It's a name you may know, and as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, that has some parents upset and confused.
Baltimore County Public Schools on July 1st got a new chief operating officer who will make $240,000 a year with an extra $1,000 monthly doctoral stipend. All in, it's a $250,000 a year job.
It's a joke.
And Baltimore County parents like Brandy Martin can't believe who the new superintendent, Dr. Miriam Yarbrough, picked for the job.
He got promoted, and now that I hear that, I'm really disgusted in the fact that who thought he needed a promotion? And what was he promoted off of? What exactly did he do to earn any of that?
They would never, ever. BCPS's new COO is Dr. Jess Grimm, a name that may sound familiar.
Dr. Grimm, my name is Chris Papps. I'm a reporter with FOX45 News. My name is Chris Papps with FOX45 News.
Dr. Grimm, in late 2021, was the director of the Department of Transportation for Baltimore County Schools when it became embroiled in a major scandal.
One of your mechanics signed it saying the defects had been repaired, sir. They weren't repaired. Why won't you answer this question for parents?
You are the whistleblower? I am. This whistleblower, a former bus mechanic, came forward to Project Baltimore.
There is a lot of things wrong that the county just sweeps under the rug.
With his help, we obtained pictures and inspection reports that showed buses with broken parts were passing inspection and carrying students.
Ready? Okay. Put your locks on.
Students like Martin's son, who uses a wheelchair, and back in 2022 was often unable to ride the bus to school because the wheelchair lift was broken. Martin tried to get help, but says Dr. Grimm was not responsive. Following our reporting in 2022, the Maryland State Department of Transportation inspected all roughly 800 Baltimore County school buses and found 145 defects. The buses were repaired, and MDOT issued a list of recommendations to Baltimore County schools to better improve inspections. And around that same time, Dr. Grimm moved to a different position in the school system, which came with a $21,000 a year pay cut.
You see, Grimm went from earning $173,000 a year as a director of transportation to $152,000 a year as the manager of business operations. And now he'll be earning $240,000 a year as the chief operating officer. And all of this happened in a time span of about 1 year.
This has been torture, not only to him, but also to myself.
But it wasn't just bus inspections that plagued the Department of Transportation under Grimm's leadership.
He's not safe. He's not safe.
Chill. Parents came to Project Baltimore with concerns about their children's safety and how the school system handled discipline on school buses. Those complaints were echoed by former school bus driver Alicia Matthews, who told FOX45 in February 2022 that student behavior was out of control.
Even the water bottles, where I'm driving down the street and a water bottle is under my foot, where the kids were hanging outside the bus from the mirrors.
The other part is retention.
But even after all the problems, Dr. Yarbrough, soon after becoming the new superintendent, promoted Grimm to chief operating officer.
I would love to know what he was promoted off of and what he did to earn that amount of money.
You would want Dr. Yarbrough to explain that.
Absolutely, in detail.
So we asked Dr. Yarbrough for an interview to discuss why she chose Dr. Grimm for a high-level position in her cabinet. After all, it was just a few weeks ago that she said this in her first press conference as superintendent.
Do you believe in transparency, and will you make yourself available to the media when issues do arise?
So I absolutely believe in transparency. I believe in making myself available, like today, and there will be more opportunities to come.
But Dr. Yarbrough is not making herself available to discuss her new COO. Instead, we received this short statement saying Grimm was not removed from his previous position as a director of transportation, and that Baltimore County Public Schools cannot and does not discuss confidential personnel matters.
Next appointment is Dr. Jess Grimm. He is attending this evening. Please, you are standing to be recognized.
But Grimm's appointment is not confidential. Dr. Yarbrough publicly announced it at a board meeting.
His previous experience includes manager of business operations, principal of Chesapeake High.
She even read his resume.
He has 26.7 years of experience in Baltimore County. Congratulations, Dr. Grimm.
His promotion is outright disgusting and beyond the disappointment and disgrace. Literally, like, he doesn't deserve a dime, and he doesn't deserve a promotion one bit. If anything, he deserves to be fired.
Why won't you answer this question for parents?
The new superintendent's cabinet is made up of 6 people. 3 of them were cabinet members who worked under the previous superintendent, Dr. Darrell Williams. The other 3, including Grimm, were Baltimore County Schools employees who were promoted. In other words, Dr. Yarbrough did not bring anyone in from outside of Baltimore County to be on her cabinet. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Accusation the city parks department isn't providing services in a fair way. Why some Baltimore residents claim the city is failing kids this summer.
And a level 2 of 5, slight risk of severe weather coming for tomorrow afternoon's commute. So a severe threat just in time for the rush hour. So it's not looking too good here. That area in yellow in Baltimore, that includes the potential of some strong storms with damaging winds. The best risk coming between about 3 and 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. You see it there on the planner. Otherwise, a warm and sticky day with temperatures at about 88, and that's nothing. We could be threatening 100 in the 7-day forecast. Let you know when in a couple of minutes.
Let's take a look right now at the Fox box on the top left. Twitter has a new logo. CEO Elon Musk replaced the platform's famous blue bird with an X. The new logo can be found on the desktop version, but the bird is still on the smartphone app.
Top right, the International Olympic Committee is on the fence about Russia's participation in the 2024 Paris Games. After the country invaded Ukraine, most sports barred Russian athletes, but some, like Wimbledon, are allowing them back as neutral competitors without flags or anthems. The IOC has not decided whether that's enough.
On the bottom left, the IRS says it will stop making unannounced home and business visits. Instead, it will mail letters to people to schedule an appointment. Now, this ends a decades-long policy where agents were sent out to collect unpaid taxes. The change is effective immediately.
Bottom right, a woman from Alabama who claims somebody kidnapped her after she stopped her car to help an infant on the side of the road now admits she made the whole story up. Police are working to decide whether to file charges against her. It is not clear why she did it.
A family demands accountability from police and justice for the loved one they lost. The latest on the Brooklyn Day investigation as it enters its third week.
The hemp industry fighting back against the state's marijuana laws. The new legal battle as owners are trying to keep their businesses alive.
We're following three big stories at 10:30 tonight. Hemp sailors in the state are taking on the state government in a fight for their livelihood. The new legal challenge to Maryland's marijuana laws.
State lawmakers now demanding a state investigation into BGE, why they're taking issue with the aggressive tactics used to install new gas regulators.
And a former NAACP leader says Baltimore's new budget is leaving some communities behind. Across Maryland, industries and leaders in the hemp industry are not done fighting to keep their businesses open, despite Maryland's new law prohibiting the sale of some production without a cannabis license.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has a closer look at a new lawsuit.
The Maryland Hemp Coalition is suing the state, arguing Maryland is monopolizing the marijuana licensing structure and therefore hurting hemp businesses. Hours before July 1st,
we want them to feel welcome. We want them to feel like they're seen, like they're noticed.
Nicholas Patrick took his business sign off the wall.
Feels terrible. remember how excited we were about this sign.
As most of his hemp-derived CBD products sold for the final time. Patrick, along with several other hemp businesses, faced the reality of closing their doors when the legal pot market opened up.
We're devastated. I'm devastated. I may have to file bankruptcy.
In Annapolis, lawmakers fast-tracked the framework for Maryland's budding recreational marijuana industry. The language put a cap on THC levels sold in products without a cannabis license. That means most of the hemp products in stores like Patrick's or online retailers like Cherry Blossom Hemp.
Hemp is just high in CBD, low in THC. Marijuana is high in THC, low in CBD.
Are banned.
I'm not ready just to give up just because of this.
Patrick is not part of this new lawsuit filed Monday against the state. The Maryland Hemp Coalition is behind the suit, along with Sproul, farmers like Levi Sellers at South Mountain Micro Farm, and others.
So my clients who've been lawfully selling these products for years are suddenly in a position where they are being told they can't sell their products without a license, and yet the obstacles to getting a license are nearly insurmountable.
Nevin Young, the attorney representing the hemp businesses, he argues the state is monopolizing the pot licenses.
I think the law is clearly irrationally restricting the number of licenses.
The lawsuit also claims the license lottery system is discriminatory. Round one geared towards social equity applicants, defined by the state as people living in areas disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Young argues politics and money played a role when crafting pot policy.
As soon as a lot of money gets on the table, a lot of our elected officials seem to forget about those basic principles.
Especially since carve-outs were introduced in Annapolis, creating regulation and testing in the hemp industry, all to ensure product safety. That plan eventually died in committee. Meanwhile, the lawsuit's starting what's expected to be a lengthy process, and those with a stake in the outcome are looking to stay afloat.
We're investigating options of moving our facilities and production out of this state into another state, which could potentially cost my farm hundreds of thousands of dollars to move, as well as could potentially lose the whole farm in the process.
The lawsuit seeking to put a temporary stop to the laws enforcing the ban on these hemp products.
The governor's office did not respond to our request for comment over this lawsuit, and a hearing has not yet been scheduled. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, the lawsuit argues politics and money played a role in crafting pot policy. Earlier this year, Fox 45 News reviewed campaign finance reports for some of the key lawmakers who sponsored the legislation. Records show cannabis-connected donors gave thousands of dollars to the 4 bill sponsors in the days leading up to the 2023 legislative session. You can find more on that on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
The Maryland Department of Transportation announces a series of open house meetings on the Red Line project. The Red Line would connect communities from Bayview in Baltimore City to Woodlawn in Baltimore County. The open houses will take place from July 26th through August 2nd in communities the Red Line would impact. The MTA says the meetings will provide more details on the project and share options for methods of transportation, including bus and light rail transit, among other things. Critics are skeptical about the Red Line's price tag and are pushing for bus routes instead of the new rail corridor.
An enhanced bus system, and what this does is a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to have buses. It's a lot cheaper to operate buses.
Well, you can find more in the public meetings on our website, foxbaltimore.com/newslinks.
Baltimore residents demanding accountability tonight from city leaders for issues in the city's parks this summer. Along with multiple pools being closed, there are new concerns the city is not being equitable with how it's spending its money, leaving kids without safe spaces when there was plenty of funding to fix issues in public parks. Among those speaking out, a former local NAACP leader. Fox 45's Jeff Abel is live with those details for us tonight. Jeff?
Well, for many parents and community members, this is a summer of discontent, and a new audit of the Recreation and Parks Department is only adding fuel to that fire.
They do a lot of talking, but at the end of the day, we're suffering here.
Outside City Hall today, critics complain that city leaders have failed the children this summer.
We have elected officials who are not connected with the very neighborhoods that they represent.
They're angry that 3 public pools are still closed this summer, that a North Avenue library where many people cool off during the summer has been closed since April. But perhaps the most concerning is a little-known city audit.
We're very disturbed about this report.
The audit of the city's Recreation and Parks Department found that the department has failed to supply funds and services in a fair and equitable manner.
Our audit concluded that the Baltimore City Recreation and Parks is not in full compliance with city code.
Last week, the mayor claimed the city had planned to build a new pool in Patterson Park, but other politicians pressed to repair the current pool, which is one of 3 still closed this summer.
Despite my concerns that we would end up where we are today.
In a statement, a Rex and Park spokeswoman last week attempted to explain the broken pools, saying at the end of each season, we drain our pools, evaluate the system, then winterize the pool. Then, in the spring, we re-inspect the pool to ensure that it doesn't have any new issues and then make necessary repairs.
I have grandkids now and nowhere for them to go.
The shortage of recreation prompted Sonia Eady to raise $1 million in grants so her Poppleton community could renovate an old pool and recreation center.
We tried to get the city to do some investments in it. They refused, said they didn't have the funding. So we went outside and found funding.
Critics complain that the problems this summer have less to do with a shortage of funds, just a shortage of real solutions.
We're saying our elected officials are putting money in the wrong places. The people that need to benefit from it are not benefiting.
Well, the group is so frustrated that it is now calling for the director of the Recreation and Parks Department to step down. We're live tonight. Jeff Apel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Well, Baltimore lawmakers are calling on state regulators to investigate aggressive tactics some say BGE used to install external gas regulators at residents' homes. A letter to the new chairperson of the Public Service Commission questioning if BGE is upholding its commitment to provide accurate information to the public. Last month, 3 Federal Hill residents were arrested while protesting BGE's work in their neighborhood. They accused the company of damaging historical homes with the installation and illegally turning off gas service to customers who refuse to comply. You can find the full letter and all of our previous reporting on BGE's external gas regulators on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And it's just, she was taken way too soon. It wasn't her time yet, but I guess God said that God had other intentions.
The families of the victims of the Brooklyn Day shooting continue to mourn their loss and call for justice 3 weeks into the investigation. Police have yet to arrest or charge anyone for killing 2 people and shooting 28 others at that biggest mass shooting in Baltimore's history. Aaliyah Gonzalez was one of the 2 people killed in the shooting. Her grandmother and brother are calling for accountability from Baltimore police, saying the department should have known the party was taking place and acted to protect the neighborhood.
How do you not know about an event that happens every year?
Even 2 police cars, if they were there, I'm almost certain this wouldn't happen.
Acting Commissioner Richard Worley says his department came up short in its initial response to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, but he's committed to finding those responsible. If you have any information about the shooting, you should call Baltimore Police or Metro Crime Stoppers.
It has been a violent start to the week in Baltimore. 5 people were shot in 3 separate incidents last night. The shootings happened all across the city, from southwest Baltimore to the northeastern police district. And according to Baltimore police, 377 people have been shot and survived this year. 155 have been killed in the city. And while those numbers are down from last year, there are growing concerns over youth crime. Now, those issues aren't unique to Baltimore. Tonight, national correspondent Kayla Gaskins is breaking down the crime problems big cities are facing all across the nation.
Rising crime in cities like Washington, D.C., hitting too close to home for many.
It feels like it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Earlier this month, the former Afghan interpreter shot and killed while working as a rideshare driver.
After the gunshot, they ran down the alley this direction.
The horrific scene unfolding on this residential street just a mile from the Capitol. We spoke with the D.C. homeowner whose security tapes captured the crime.
There's 2 on the corner on the side of the building, one facing towards the end of the alley. You know, there's some things that you deal with because you consider it part of city living. I think we surpassed that